The metric system. The metric system is comprised of three basic units: the meter, the liter, and the gram. The meter is abbreviated by lowercase m, and it's used to measure length. Liter is represented by capital L or scripted L, and it's used to measure volume or liquids. And grams are abbreviated with a lowercase g, and they're used to measure weight. So if we think of measuring tablets and powders, those would be measured in grams. So these are our three basic units in the metric system, and I can combine these basic units with prefixes to look at different measurements within the system. We have a couple key conversions in the metric system for dosage calculations. These are conversions that will come up quite often when looking at calculating our dosages and when looking at volumes and weights of different medications. So these conversions are, first one, 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams. 1 gram is 1,000 milligrams. 1 milligram is 1,000 micrograms. So we'll take a look at the metric system in a second here, but these are some of the key conversions, and those were given for weight. For volume, 1 liter is the same as 1,000 milliliters, which is also the same as 1,000 cc's. Now the abbreviation cc represents cubic centimeters, which would be the same thing as a milliliter. cc's are a measurement that have been used in the past, and by the Joint Commission, we are told to use milliliters instead of cc's. But you'll see cc's used quite often. So cc's and milliliters are used interchangeably. And one measurement that we should look at for length is that 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. So these are some key conversions. These would be ones that would be a good idea to memorize these so that we know those different conversions. But I can get any of those conversions by looking at our metric line. So on our metric line, we will always want to start with our basic unit right in the middle. So our basic unit here would be our meters, our liters, and our grams. So I want to think of that basic unit kind of sticking out here in the center. From our basic unit, if I add prefixes to that value or to that unit, then it gives us a different value. So the prefixes we're going to take a look at are kilo, hecto, deca, and then to the right of the basic unit, deci, centi, milli, and micro. Now, these are only some of the prefixes that are used in the metric system. These are the most common in healthcare. So these will be the ones that we take a look at. So you want to pay attention to the abbreviations for each of the prefixes. These are the abbreviations that need to be used. These are the abbreviations that are used throughout. So we have kilo, which is K, hecto, H, deca is DA, and it's DA because our next one, deci, is just D. Centi is C, milli is M, and micro is MC, or you could see the scripted U, which is actually the Greek letter mu, used for micro. So if I put any of these prefixes in front of our basic unit, then I have a different measurement. So I could look at something that's just in meters, or if I put a prefix like K in front of M, then I'm looking at kilometers or kilometers. If I stick with meters and I put C in front of a meter, then I'm looking at centimeters. So kilometers and centimeters have different values, right? And we always refer it back to our basic unit. So when I look to the left of our basic unit, looking at kilo, hecto, and deca, these values are larger or they're bigger than our basic unit. So kilo is 1,000 times bigger than our basic unit. Hecto is 100 times larger, and deca is 10 times larger. So if I looked at a decagram would be 10 times larger than a gram. Now, if I look to the right of our basic unit, deci, centi, milli, and micro, these values get smaller. So deci is 1/10 of our basic unit. Centi is 1/100th of our basic unit. Milli is 1/1000th of our basic unit. And micro is actually 2 units away from milli, and it's 1/1,000,000th of the basic unit. So I've put our decimal places here along the bottom row so that you can see kilo, hecto, deca, they're all 1 decimal place away from each other. Deca is 1 decimal place away from the basic unit. Same thing with deci, centi, milli. But then take a look at micro. Micro is not the next one in line. We actually skip 2 units in between there, so it's 3 units away from milli. So I want to keep that in mind as we use our metric line. So to use the metric line to convert values, so maybe I have something that is in liters, but I need to have the value in milliliters. So I need to be able to convert back and forth between liters and milliliters. Or quite often we might have micrograms and we need milligrams. Or maybe we have the patient's weight in grams and we want it in kilograms. So I need to convert within the metric system. So in order to do that, I'm going to identify the decimal in the given number and then identify each prefix on the metric line. So if I'm converting kilograms to grams, I would look for kilo, which would be here. I would look for grams, which would be here. And I would find the number of units between the 2 prefixes. So maybe we're looking at a patient's weight is 2.375 kilograms. And I want to know what would that be in grams. Well, I would need to move over 1, 2, 3 places to the right to go from kilo to grams. So I'd move my decimal point 1, 2, 3 places to the right, and I'd end up with 2,375 grams. So I need to find the number of units between the prefixes, and I move my decimal point in the same direction as the conversion. So since I was going from kilograms to grams, I went to the right, so I needed to move my decimal point to the right. So it's going to be very important that you know the metric line, and I usually write it out using just the prefixes like it's given here. I would write out the metric line and then use that as you're doing conversions. There's one way that you can learn the metric line or memorize it, and it's by using this mnemonic that's given down below. So the mnemonic goes like this. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk full of microorganisms. So K is kilo, H is hecto, D is deca. The B here in by is our basic unit. D is for deci, C is for centi, M is for milli. And then notice we put these 2 spaces in here, full of, because there's 2 spaces between milli and micro. So that's one way that you can remember the metric line. But the sooner you can memorize the metric line, the easier it is as you do calculations and conversions. So let's take a look at some examples. Now with each example, I'm going to use the metric line and I'm going to write it out to start so that we have it to reference. So at the top here, I'm going to start with my meters, liters, and grams. Those are my basic units. So to the left, we have kilo, hecto, deca, and then deci, centi, milli, and micro. So if I start with the first problem, I want to take 500 micrograms is how many milligrams. So micro is over here, milli is over here. So if I want to go from micro to milli, I need to move my decimal point 1, 2, 3 places to the left. So right now my decimal point is here. So I need to move my decimal point 1, 2, 3 places to the left, which is going to give me 0.5 milligrams. Notice I did not write 0.500 milligrams. These 2 zeros on the end are called trailing zeros, And I don't need those in the problem. I'm actually not going to put them in the problem because I don't want to misread them in any way. They don't add any value to the number, so I don't need them there at all. Part B, we have 1.5 liters is how many milliliters? So first thing I want to do is find liters, and then milli is over here. So I need to go from liters to milliliters, so 1, 2, 3 places to the right. So I'm going to move my decimal point 1, 2, 3 places to the right, which gives me 1,500 milliliters. Part C, I'm looking at 5,680 millimeters is how many kilometers? So milli is all the way over here. Kilo is the first one over here. And so I want to go from milli, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to get to kilo. So I moved my decimal I moved my arrow here to the left. So I have my decimal point here. I'm going to move that to the left 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. So I end up with 0.00568. Notice I've put a 0 in front of the decimal point. We do that, that's our leading 0. We always do that so that our decimal point sticks out. We, again, don't put the trailing zeros on there. We don't want those to be misread. Part D, I'm looking at 4.5 kilograms is how many grams? So kilo is over here, and grams is over here in the center. So I need to move 1, 2, 3 places to the right. So I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 places to the right, and we have 4,500 grams. Let's look at one more on this slide. We have 0.08 grams, which is in the middle here. And we're going to go to micrograms, which is all the way to the right. So I'm going to move my decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. So I want to make sure that I count those 2 spaces between milli and micro. So I need to move my decimal point 6 places to the right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I end up with 8,000. So 8,000 micrograms. So when I'm working with the metric system and I'm converting units within the system itself, then I'm going to draw the metric line, use that metric line to figure out how I move my decimal point. Let's look at a few examples. Example 2, I'm going to perform the following conversion. So again, I'm doing the same thing as the last example, just a little bit more practice here. So I'm going to draw my metric line first to start. So we have meters, liters, grams, and we have kilo, hecto, deca, deci, centi, milli, and micro. So if I can draw that metric line to start off, that'll help me as I go to solve. I'm always going to move my decimal point in the same direction as I'm going on the metric line. So part A, I have 350 milligrams. Right now, my decimal point is after the 0. So I'm looking at milli, and I want to go to grams. So I'm going to move my decimal 1, 2, 3 places to the left, which gives me 0.35 grams. Part B, 1.86 decameters is how many centimeters? So deca is here, centi is here. So I'm going to move my decimal point 1, 2, 3 places to the right. So 1, 2, 3 places to the right will give me 1,860 centimeters. Part C, 3,500 milliliters is how many liters? So milli is over here, liter is here. So I move my decimal 1, 2, 3 places to the left. So if I move my decimal point 1, 2, 3 places to the left, so I get 3.5 liters. So as I'm getting my answers here, I want to make sure that they make sense. I want to make sure that I moved in the right direction on the metric line. So if I think of milliliters, they're smaller than liters, so it makes sense that it takes less liters to equal the number of milliliters. All right, part D, I'm looking at 1,800 micrograms, so micro would be over here, to milligrams. So I'm going to move my decimal point 1, 2, 3 places to the left. So 1, 2, 3 places to the left would give me 1.8 milligrams. Part E, we're looking at microgram to gram. So micro's over here, gram is over here. So we have a far way to go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to the left. So my decimal point is right now after the 0, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to the left, which gives me 0.0095 grams. Okay, one last one here, and this one's a little bit harder because here I have a ratio. I have 60 milligrams per milliliter is how many grams per deciliter. Okay, so instead of just having one unit, now I have this comparison of units. So what I have here is 60 milligrams per ml. That'd be the same as per 1 milliliter. And what I want to do is convert that into grams per deciliter. Now on the left-hand side here, we have milligrams. I want to take that to grams. So if I just look at the numerators, going from milligram to gram. So milli is here, gram is here, so 1, 2, 3 places to the left. So that means in 60, my decimals here, I'm going to move 1, 2, 3 places to the left, which gives me 0.06 grams. Now that's just the numerator. Now I need to work with milliliters and convert those to deciliters. So milli is here, deci is here, so 1, 2 places to the left. So 1, 2 places to the left gives me 0.01 deciliters. So I'm almost there at this point. We have 0.06 grams over 0.01 deciliters. So I want my answer in gram per deciliter. So I have that, but with my number, I want to reduce that. I would never give my answer as 0.06 divided by 0.01. We would take it one step further and actually divide. So if I divide those two, I get 6 grams per deciliter. So my answer would be 6. So when working with the metric system, it's best to write out the metric line and use that to help you as you solve the problem.